Liberal leader Mark Carney shot back on Tuesday after former Prime Minister Stephen Harper dismissed his economic skills at a rally for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Mr. Harper introduced Mr. Poilievre at an Edmonton rally on Monday night, where he said that both men running to become Prime Minister once worked for him, but he prefers Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Harper also said that as Prime Minister, he handled the 2008 financial crisis for Canada, but Mark Carney is taking the credit. In response, on Tuesday, Mr. Carney said that while he was working alongside the Harper government as Bank of Canada governor to manage the crisis, Mr. Poilievre wasn't given the same level of responsibility.
Okay, packed a lot in there. Look, Stephen Harper appointed me governor of the Bank of Canada. I worked closely with the late and great Jim Flaherty during the financial crisis. We resolved a number of situations. Many people are familiar with that experience. I note that Pierre Poilievre was not at any of those tables, was not given any of that responsibilities, and note further that in subsequent years he has not gained any responsibility in managing crises or difficult situations. So I'll leave it at that.
Our contributor, Wyatt Sharpe, joined us to discuss Mr. Carney's criticism of Pierre Poilievre.
Mark Carney's latest campaign messaging is that Pierre Poilievre has never managed a crisis to the same extent that he has. Of course, he was the Bank of Canada governor during the 2008 recession, also governor of the Bank of England, where he dealt with some really of the biggest financial crises that many G7 countries have faced over the course of the past few decades. Again, the 2008 recession certainly being one of them, where Canada came out better and on top of many of our G7 allies. And so Mark Carney, the Liberal leader, and the rest of his party is really using that as a way to explain why he should be allowed to get elected as Prime Minister over Pierre Poilievre, who, again, as the Liberals are saying, has been a politician as the MP for Carleton since he was 21 years old. Pierre Poilievre is hitting back at that, though. Of course, he has been the Minister of State for Democratic Institutions, where he had to manage various crises around the world with respect to geopolitics and the state of democracy in many kind of underdeveloped countries around the globe as well. And so certainly there's no shortage of back and forth, especially on this issue, but that doesn't mean that, one person isn't more experienced than the other. And both of them still have kind of their arguments as to why they believe they are that candidate, because all things considered, this is the closest kind of most dynamic race that we have seen in a long time, where we have two really strong candidates, both of which are trying to make their respective arguments for why they should be elected, while also having a large portion of excitement and enthusiasm from the Canadian public. Of course, with Pierre Poilievre attracting more than 15,000 people in Edmonton just the other night, 6,000 in Oshawa, and of course Mark Carney as well having about 3,000 people at one of his rallies that took place in British Columbia recently. And so it's going back and forth again. As I said, it's the first election in a long time where it seems as if there is this level of enthusiasm like we haven't seen before.